Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to the Piper Report. So Congress just got a big warning on how the debt ceiling fight could wreck the U.S. economy. Yes, they are pushing to raise the debt ceiling once again. What's the point of having a debt ceiling if you're never going to abide by it? And what really kind of is irritating about this, even though if this would indeed happen, it wouldn't make any difference, but in the past, I saw a guy, he was on Fox News, and, excuse me, he was doing an interview, he was discussing the debt ceiling, and he was trying to push for a removal of the debt ceiling altogether. So there'd be absolutely no debt ceiling at all for Congress to abide by. And that terrifies me. Because if you get a Congress in there that are big spenders, well, they have no leash, if you will. They have no way to be actually held back from hyperinflation. And hyperinflation devalues the dollar and it raises costs, which hurts the lower class the most because the lower class has less money than the rich people. So taxes in general and government spending in general is bad because it actually hurts the lower class first and foremost. But here's a short article. One of the three big credit rating agencies issued a warning to lawmakers regarding the debt ceiling on Wednesday. Fitch Ratings said in a statement that the AAA rating the U.S. now bears would be in jeopardy if Congress can't get a deal done before the deadline to raise the borrowing limit. If the debt limit is not raised in a timely manner prior to the so-called X date, Fitch would review the U.S. sovereign rating, with potentially negative implications, Fitch said. We have previously said that prioritizing debt service payments over other obligations if the limit is not raised, if legally and technically feasible, may not be compatible with AAA status. There are three major credit ratings agencies. If the U.S. were to slip close to a debt ceiling crisis, their ratings on the U.S. debt could slip and make it more costly for the federal government to issue debt. In 2011, after the U.S. brushed up against a debt ceiling deadline, S&P lowered its ratings of U.S. debt, sending shockwaves through financial markets. Now, that's actually quite interesting because I was reading up on some of that stuff, and it turns out that one of the options that Obama was considering, because he wasn't sure if he was going to get the votes to raise the debt ceiling, was printing a platinum coin worth $1 trillion. Now, that's very interesting. It has to be platinum according to statutes, but I'm kind of curious about this. I have to do more research on this because I'll be honest. I think I have a pretty decent understanding of the economy and the banking system, but I don't know exactly if we could do this. Why wouldn't we just make a bunch of platinum coins worth $1 trillion to pay off a lot of our debt? You'd think we'd be able to do that if they are considering it at the time. Why does it only have to be in case of emergency that we cannot raise our debt ceiling? And while we're on the subject here, has Congress ever thought that instead of consistently raising the debt ceiling, that maybe we should cut spending? Maybe we should stop borrowing so much money from the Federal Reserve? No, they got to keep spending, which is why even though we have conservatives in Congress, the size of government continues to expand. Government jobs continue to expand. Government spending continues to expand. It's always about the expansion of government. It's never the opposite. It is never the opposite. And it's kind of irritating. We shouldn't have to worry about a debt ceiling. We should be able to pass legislation, pass our budget with enough cuts to actually abide by the maximum allowance. There's no logical reason why we couldn't do that. We have a $600 billion deficit. We could cut military spending by quite a bit. We could cut entitlements by quite a bit. We could even cut Medicare and Medicaid. And we can't cut Social Security, but a little bit. And right there, you balance the budget. If you really want to go into more depth, you could get rid of the DED, not the Department of Energy, but the Department of Education. get rid of that. I guess you could get rid of the Department of Energy as well. You get rid of the FDA. I mean, there are a lot of different options we could do to actually get our fiscal reserves, our fiscal policy under control. We don't have to keep on raising debt ceiling. But then there's also some existential issues that come with that then. If we would, for instance, get rid of places like the Department of Education, Department of Energy, you're going to have a lot of government employees out of jobs then. So this is kind of a tough situation to be in, but we should not have to actually keep raising our debt ceiling, which increases inflation, which reduces value to the dollar. It devalues the dollar quite a bit, and it's only getting worse and worse. The buying power of the dollar is 96% of what it was, I believe, in 1930, I want to say. I have to double check that, but it's worth less. It's worth 96% less than it once was, put it that way. That says a lot. That's only going to continue to get worse. It's only going to continue to hurt people that are struggling already. Where is I at? Congress has 12 days in session during the month of September to make a move on the debt ceiling before the Treasury Department's self-imposed deadline. One option that has been floated in previous debates is the idea of prioritization, that the government could stop other payments and focus on paying interest on its debt to try and preserve faith in the bond market. Fitch said, however, that likely wouldn't help if it reconsidered its rating. In Fitch's view, the economic impact of stopping other spending to prioritize debt repayment and potential damage to investor confidence in the full faith and credit of the U.S., which enables its AAA rating to tolerate such high public debt, would be negative for U.S. sovereign creditworthiness, Fitch said. So basically what they're saying here is that if we do not raise our debt ceiling, that's going to scare world countries in different markets, global markets, that we may not be able to actually pay back our debt, which we cannot now, but pay back our debt slowly. So they're worried that if we do violate the debt ceiling, that they'll have to give the U.S. a lower credit rating, which actually makes things more expensive for us, and it harms us in the eyes of the global markets. But like I said before, all we have to do is just cut spending. We have to keep on raising it. Our credit rating would still be good, and then we would be able to actually help out those that are struggling, not simply make them poorer by inflating money. Fitch noted that there are disagreements within Congress that need to be solved in order for the debt ceiling to be raised. Despite their majority in both chambers, Republicans will likely need some Democrats to come on board with a clean hike of the limit, since hardline conservatives have opposed such a hike, and that will not be a problem at all. I guarantee you the majority of Democrats will also step on this bandwagon because they love it. Based on political ideology and political theory, it is supposed to be the Democrats that want to increase government spending. Conservatives, or Republicans, in theory, are actually supposed to minimize that. They're supposed to balance the budget, things of that nature. That's why most of the Republicans in Congress aren't actually conservative, because a conservative would want a balanced budget. They'd want to reduce our massive influx of government spending on entitlements and the military, things of that nature. Republicans, as they are now, they're more moderate and even left in terms of fiscal policy. So I can't see a way that this debt ceiling will not get hiked. It will get hiked no matter what. And we just have to keep on looking at it and watch our debt continue to soar with more hyperinflation on the way. So it's a friendly, beautiful taste of things to come. And you gotta love Congress and the Federal Reserve. The power of the purse and the power to control the economy. Two different entities have a lot of power to completely destroy your own sanctity of life, your own economic prosperity, your right to live in a just and free society that you can actually thrive on and you can actually survive in. Important to note, and I'm done.